I'll be back.
Wow, just want to say, Ellen, before you go back,
The mark of a great song is when you feel like, oh, that must be from like an 18th century. It's been sung for centuries. It resonates so deeply. Didn't it have that feeling? And yet, just so beautiful. Thank you.
Ellen will be back on the next song.
So I want to tell you another story from the Bible. You may or may not. Some of you know it and some of you may not. And it's a story of Jeptha's daughter. And the first thing to notice is that she has no name. She's simply called Jeptha's daughter. So Jeptha is this man who's a great fighter, warrior. But he's born to a woman, up to a prostitute. And she was shamed, and he was shamed and ashamed of it. And he's really ostracized from his community because of that. But then his community suddenly is going into battle against the enemy, and they come to Jeptha and they say, please lead us in battle. And if you do, we'll accept you back into the community. So then he makes this promise. He makes this promise to God. He says, please let me win this battle, and if I do, I will sacrifice the very first thing that I see when I get home. And who does he see when he first gets home? Is his daughter. And of course he freaks out, and she says, you know what, just give me a couple months to go off with the women in my community, and then I'll come back. And so she goes off with the women of her community, and then she comes back. Now, some rabbis tried to fudge the ending, and they try to make it ambiguous what did really happen to her, but it's really not so ambiguous. But one of the things that they all agreed on, that they thought was a terrible tragedy, is that she knows no man, that she dies a virgin, and that is considered a terrible tragedy. So it is known that, in fact, in the town of Gilead, every year, for 4 days, all the women would gather for their own private festival to celebrate and commemorate Jeptha's daughter. Call me, she of no name, granddaughter of the woman whose name was shame. Call me, she of no name, granddaughter of the woman whose name was shame. My father was a fighter, scorned and abused. Went and made a promise he couldn't undo. Said, let me win and I'll sacrifice the first thing I see. Never crossed his mind that that might be me. Call me, she of no name, granddaughter of the woman whose name was shame. Call me, she of no name, granddaughter of the woman whose name was shame. I greeted my father with my dance and my song. He cried, oh Lord, he can't believe what I have done. I said to my father, now here's what I'll do. Gonna go ask my sisters, help to think this thing through. Call me, she of no name, granddaughter of the woman whose name was shame. Call me, she of no name, granddaughter of the woman whose name was shame. We fled to the mountains to our hideaway, and there we prayed the way that only women pray. We called our refuge a no man's land, and there we loved the way that only women can. Call me, she of no name, granddaughter of the woman whose name was shame. Call me, she of no name, granddaughter of the woman whose name was shame. 2 months later I came back home, refreshed in my spirit, but sorrow in my bones. So gather ye women for 4 days a year, tell everyone my story so that all can hear. How for the sake of your glory, for the sake of your war, no one thought my life worth fighting for the sake of your glory, for the sake of your war. No one thought my life worth fighting for.